The New Jersey Devils will be interesting team to watch come the trade deadline, and they have a core of good young players to build on. Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils is here to talk about their plans at the deadline and for the rest of the season.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NHL podcast, and thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Right now, it's my pleasure to welcome back to the show a man who we haven't had on in way too long. So Trey Matthews of Locked On New Jersey Devils, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Gil. Excited to talk. A little, pardon me, I'm a little jet lagged because I just literally got back from Vegas just a few hours ago. So still not used to it being 3 hours ahead now. It's trying to get reaccustomed to it.
I hear you. I hope you had a good time at least.
I did. Don't worry, no gambling. No gambling. I promised my parents no gambling.
Okay. Excellent. So the New Jersey Devils, let's talk a little bit about Sunday's game, a nice overtime win over the St. Louis Blues. And again, you know, the one thing I love about the Devils, their young players really are stepping up and making key contributions.
You are right. And one person I was happy to see actually get a goal or, do something was Ty Smith. He's been struggling heavily this year. Like last year, he had his name in the Calder Memorial Trophy race, and now this year he's just become an afterthought, and he's actually become a liability on the defensive end. And it got to the point where not just too long ago, we actually had to make him a healthy scratch because, it's so funny because last year I said he was arguably one of our best defensemen despite him being a rookie. But now here we are this year, and he's been wildly inconsistent. Like I said, he's been a huge liability, but I'm just so glad that he was able to, finally get a goal and just, show everyone that, hey, maybe it's not too late for him to turn it around. Also, Dawson Mercer, he's been getting it going a lot recently. And the one thing I want to highlight, Gil, is that Hughes and Brott were able to get a point this game. Like Hughes had a couple of points because he assisted on Dawson Mercer's goal and Dougie Hamilton's overtime goal, and Brott was able to get an assist on Ty Smith's goal as well. I just want to talk briefly about Brott and Hughes, just because both of them have been averaging about a point per game for the New Jersey Devils. It's been a while since we've had two players on our team average a point per game. And the thing about Brott is that I don't think anyone anticipated for him to have the season that he is having. And he is certainly going to get a newer contract for the Devils, barring anything catastrophic happening. I would expect it for it to be maybe a 2 to 3 year deal, just so we're conservative about it, just due to the fact that, this is a career year for him. This is by far his best season in the league, but we just got to know is this a one-hit wonder? Is he a one-trick pony? We don't want to, sign him to a long-term deal and just potentially like he just be a huge bust. Like we don't want to do that. So I think the key for us is that we have to be just conservative about our young guys and just know we got a unit together. We have the ingredients. We just need the chefs and the sous chefs to just put it together. So we have a lot of young pieces, and I'm really excited for the future, just like you said. So Brott, Hughes, Heiser, Hamilton, and I haven't given up on Blackwood yet.
No, too early to give up on him. And you're making me hungry with your analogies here, but that's a good thing. So you talk about this young core, and there is a lot to get excited about. So the trade deadline is a couple of weeks away. How do you see the Devils philosophically looking ahead at the trade deadline? What do you expect them to do?
Okay, so here's what I expect them to do. They're not going to be sellers. Like, I know they're struggling this year. I know, the season hasn't really gone as we anticipated, because I anticipated for them to be at least a dark horse team in the playoff race. But just things didn't go their way in terms of injuries, in terms of COVID. I know a lot of teams are dealing with that, but still, doesn't take away from the fact that the Devils have also been hit hard with it. So I would anticipate the Devils not to be sellers, but maybe just put a few feelers out, because we don't really have the pieces to blow it all up. what I mean by that is Hughes is signed to a long-term deal. Heischer is signed to a long-term deal. Hamilton is signed to a long-term deal. And then, obviously, I don't think the Devils are going to be stupid enough to trade Jesper Bratt with the season he's having, because Jack Hughes does not have the season he is having if it's not for Jesper Bratt, quite honestly. So I think overall, I would not expect us to be sellers. Like I've done a couple silly season episodes on my show. For anyone who doesn't know what silly season is, it's basically like I hear a trade rumor and I give my opinions on that potential hypothetical scenario, or do I want this player on my team, or that kind of thing. So I've done one for Connor Garland, I've done one for Brock Besser, I've done one for Quinn Hughes. So basically, the Devils are linked to any Vancouver Canucks deal at this point. So, I think. I think the Devils are going to have somewhat of a quiet trade deadline. I don't expect them to get rid of anyone. I don't anticipate for them to try to pursue anyone, at least on a serious matter. I mean, would it be nice to have Besser or Garland on our team? Yes, absolutely. But at the same time, Garland is that's actually something you got to commit to because he's signed to a long-term deal. And then Besser, I think he's going to be a free agent after a year. So it's just like, you got to be a little careful if you're going to like deal some pieces away. Like he has to actually be committed to it. And then for Quinn Hughes, I think that's just a huge brouhaha just because we have Luke Hughes, we have Jack Hughes. So it's just like, why don't we get the third Hughes brothers? Why not? Let's just bring the whole band together at this point. So personally, I it's fun to discuss and it is possible, but I wouldn't anticipate it happening, especially we would have to give up so much to get Quinn Hughes. I think Jesper Bratt would have to be the centerpiece of that deal. But talking about the trade deadline, a few players that have come to mind in terms of the Devils might try to sell is Pavel Zacha, PK Subban, Jimmy Vesey, Damon Severson. I think those are the few players that the Devils are looking to get rid of because PK Subban expiring contract, Jimmy Vesey signed to a tryout deal during the course of the offseason, impressed during preseason, impressed during training camp, so he got a deal with the Devils. And at one point during the year, he was leading our team in takeaways. See who else did I name? Damon Severson talked to Michael of Locked On Leafs about maybe potentially trading Damon Severson to the Toronto Maple Leafs, maybe for a prospect or something like that. Personally, I don't think they should jump on the gun on Damon Severson because he has this year and next year. So just try to get a better gauge of what happens next year, and then you try to make a move. And Pavel Zacha, unfortunately, I've been very patient with him, but I just don't think he's cracked up what he was supposed to be. You know what I mean? Because his draft class, like Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner, the bar was set super high for him, and he's not even a quarter of the way filling it. So it's just maybe it's best to maybe move on from Pavel Zacha and see what could potentially happen. And also, I've heard that Tom Fitzgerald is just trying to see about goaltending as well, because for the last few games we've been relying on Nico Dawes. He's been doing pretty decent. He's got a couple wins for us, and he's a for now situation, but he's certainly not going to be a permanent staple point for the Devils, especially since Blackwood and Bernier are both on the injured list. Bernier's done for the year. I don't know if Mackenzie Blackwood is coming back this year. I'd be surprised if he did, but we'll see what happens, because I don't think the Devils are going to try to rush him because he re-injured that same heel that he had surgery on during the course of the offseason. So overall, it's just I would anticipate the Devils to have somewhat of a quiet trade deadline, but I think they're going to put out a few feelers out there just to see what they could potentially get.
Should be interesting. And to me, a guy like PK Subban, who has experience, who can contribute on the power play and move the puck a little bit, for the right playoff contender, I think he could be a definite asset.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm open to bring PK Subban back. I don't want to get rid of him, quite honestly, because if you're telling me we have a former Norris Trophy winner who has an absolute rocket of a slap shot and just someone who can assert himself on the defensive side of things, and PK Subban has actually gotten better this year. Each year that he's been with the Devils, it's not a huge upward trajectory, but it's getting better. It's step by step by step. It seems like he's getting more comfortable, and I think it's because we're not relying on him to be the center point of our defense anymore. Now we got Dougie Hamilton. Last year it was Ty Smith. So Overall, I just think I'm open to bring PK Subban back just on a way cheaper deal because former Norris Trophy winner. I would like that on my bottom four defense, quite honestly. So I'm open to bring PK Subban back, but just for a cheaper deal. Do I think we could trade him? I don't really know because we've been trying for the last couple of years. We exposed them in the expansion draft to see how Kraken didn't even want him, but then again they stayed away from all the big contracts. But still,
Right.
it's just like I think PK Subban is here for the long run for the Devils, and like I said, I'm open to bring him back just on a cheaper deal.
All right, Trey, why don't you tell our listeners and our viewers where they could find the podcast and where they could find.
Okay, so you can find the show wherever you get your podcast from. We're also on YouTube at Locked On Devils. So please like and subscribe. Subscribers have been going up recently, but as for my podcast, like I said, you can get it wherever you get your podcast from. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Like I said, wherever you get your podcast from, and on social media, you can follow me at TreyMatt4, so at TreyMatt and the number 4, and you can also follow my show at Locked On Devils on Twitter as well. That's where you can find me.
All right, Trey, always a pleasure. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Gil.